All right, so I got Pat, I got Kyle, and I have Jacob with me. How is everyone doing?
Good. Thank you for having me today.
Pat, how's it going?
Going great, man. First off, Jacob, thank you for coming on. Really pleasure. Really just trying to get people out there around not only Missouri but around the country know what we got going on here. So really blessed to have you on this podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Kyle, how are you?
I'm surviving the best I can.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
Yeah, Pat and Jacob, nice to meet you both.
Yeah,
And
nice to
Kurt,
meet you too, Kyle.
All right, so you guys want to do some introductions real quick? I know it's been a while since we've done this, and of course, Jacob, this is your first time on. So Pat, if you want to go first, and then Kyle, and then Jacob, since you're the guest.
Hey guys, you guys probably know me from my beautiful works of my writing articles I've been doing. My name is Pat Ruffino. I'm a writer for Mission Essential Gear. Occasionally come on, analyze and educate the podcast. When I'm not doing that, I am a nursing student. In addition, I fancy myself a fake mercenary, and do a lot of educating on the medical side of the house for police departments and private businesses and whatnot.
Kyle?
All right, I'm Kyle Larson. I think this is my second episode with you guys. I'm currently a student at University of Colorado Boulder. Did 5 years in the Marine Corps. Now I'm just trying to make my way through life.
And then Jacob.
Yes, my name is Jacob Turner. I own a business out in Missouri. Former veteran in the Marine Corps, and currently I'm running for Congress out here in the 8th District. So, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for coming on. We all really appreciate it. What kind of business do you own?
I own delivery routes. So I own 5 separate delivery routes.
Okay.
I manage, train drivers, and then I just manage pay and benefits from there.
Okay. How long have you been doing that?
2014, I got out of the Marine Corps in 2013, and I went to work. I went to work for the post office first, and then I seen that there was more money to be made on the contracting side, which is usually the case, even in the military. So just like most of us, I made the decision to go contracting.
Okay, awesome. Where'd you grow up, and what made you want to join the Marines?
I grew up in Doniphan, Missouri. It's a country town. It's so rural. I tell people this all the time, that it's so country that we had 1 week off in November for deer season from public school. So we got to get off, go hunting with our families, and then come back the week after and show everybody pictures of our trophy bucks. And so I always grew up in nature, always grew up shooting guns, come from a very patriotic family. And so it was just a natural fit for me. I've always been patriotic, and I've always looked at Marines, even from a young age, not knowing too many Marines, just looking at it. There was always something about those dress blues. I always thought, man, one day I want to be in those dress blues. So as soon as I got out of high school, I had my mom go sign the papers so I could ship off to San Diego.
What was your MOS while you were in?
I originally was a 6672, which means I worked in the air wing. That was short-lived. I ended up moving over to 3rd Low Altitude Air Defense. That's where I was trained and deployed as a security unit. After coming back, I made a stint on the Marine Corps Mixed Martial Arts team and submission wrestling team. And then I went to recruiting duty in Oklahoma and had a successful run in recruiting.
Nice. What made you want to do LAD? Air defense?
LAD. Well, the MOS that I was in, it didn't suit my personality. I've always been a go-getter, someone who wanted to be outside, and I joined the Marine Corps with the expectations that I would be doing things like patrols and such. How did I end up in the position that the job or the MOS that I did, if that's what I wanted? That's a good story. We can start with that. I wanted to leave in the Marine Corps early. And at the time, there was only 5 jobs available, is what I was told. I was a young pup. I didn't know better. And being 17 years old, I listened to whoever was in charge, and they said, well, we have a better option for you. You have a really high ASVAB score. So what we could do is we could sign you open contract, and the Marine Corps will choose a good job for you. And I said, well, that sounds way better, Sergeant, than those 5 jobs on that list. Sign me up. I'm ready to go. So I ended up in a job that I wasn't too fond of. So I was pretty vocal about this, the fact that I wasn't happy with my position. And I had a captain who was just amazing. And one day he walked up and he said, I have an opportunity for you. He's like, you don't fit in around here doing this. I know that you want to get out. You want to go out and do some exciting stuff. So I tell you what, I don't know if it's a job that's burnt. I'll be a little PG, burning poop. We use the different words. And as you know, there are jobs in the Marine Corps where you're stirring burning feces overseas. And I said, I don't care. I'll take it. Whatever it is, I'm down. Well, there was a shortage in 3rd Low Altitude Air Defense at the time. Something had happened, a mismanagement with their people, and they were highly shorted, and they were needed for us to act as a security unit. So I was fortunate enough to get pulled over there and get to go through the training of what it would take to write patrols, to go on patrols, how to do proper searches, and how to clear houses, and how to do all that cool stuff that I wanted to learn how to do in the first place. So it really worked out for me. Not everybody gets that opportunity. Once they make it in, they kind of get stuck in a position, but I was very fortunate and blessed. And I loved my time in the Marine Corps. That's how I ended up in 3rd Lad.
Okay. And how long did you stay with 3rd Lad?
I was with 3rd Lad for 1.5 years.
Okay. Yeah. And you went to the martial arts team after that?
I did. I was 1 out of 9 people on the martial arts team. I grew up boxing. In my town, if you didn't play basketball or baseball, you did play sports. Well, I was fortunate enough to live 15, 20 minutes away from a town called Poplar Bluff, Missouri. And a old boxing coach had moved to town, and he was retired, and he wanted something to do in his spare time. So he opened a boxing gym. So I would drive over there, and I would learn how to box and how to use my hands in the proper fashion. And I just took to it really well. So when I tried out when I decided I was going to try out for the Marine Corps Mixed Martial Arts team, I realized I had no ground game. But I was very fortunate, and I met this young man who was one of the first Americans to train with the Brazilians when they came to America for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So for probably about 8 months, we trained every day in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So therefore, I would have a ground game to go with my boxing. So I had to go compete in a competition to make it into the team. And I was awarded the spot for the 185 weight class.
Okay. And so what do you guys do in the mixed martial arts team? Do you compete with teams from other branches, other countries? What do you guys do? There's
definitely other sports teams. The Navy had a team that they were developing closer to the end of my time on the team. We fought a lot of civilians. There's a lot of good MMA teams in California. So we were able to go they'll have a jiu-jitsu competition or an amateur mixed martial arts competition every other weekend. And us Marines, we naturally like to fight or roughhouse. So that was perfect for a guy like me.
Okay, nice. And how long were you doing that for?
I did that for around a year. And it came up to a point where I could either try out and extend, but I was coming up in a weird spot with my contract, and I had to make a career move. Yeah, and at the time, I didn't know if I wanted to be a 20-year Marine or if I wanted to get out after that. So I looked into Marine Corps recruiting. I thought, hey, that sounds like a good gig for me. I like to talk. I love the Marine Corps. I could sell it. So I think I'll give that a shot. And that was one of the most valuable things I've ever done. It was the hardest duty that I've ever done. It was most challenging to be able to go up there and give those talks. You have to earn those skills, that's for sure. But definitely the most rewarding.
Okay. And were you able to go back to Missouri to do recruiting? Did you have to go somewhere?
I wasn't. I'd actually, this is funny. I had called Stockton, California, and requested a by name request because I wanted to go train with the Diaz brothers. If you know MMA. So because I'm an MMA guy, because I'm a boxer and a jiu-jitsu guy, I had it dead set. I was like, I'm going to choose Stockton. I'm going to go train with Nick and Nate Diaz. I love those guys. They're tough. However, I got chosen for Oklahoma City. And when I show up, the guy straight up tells me, the guy who's in charge, he said, we're putting you out at a PCS by yourself. But I'm going to be honest, no one's made it successful out of here. Everybody comes here, their careers die. I'm just being honest with you. You got you're kind of early on in your career. Maybe you can make a comeback out of it, but it ain't looking good. He was just dead honest with me. And I'm grateful he was. I'm glad that he was. He didn't try to blow smoke. 2 guys have been relieved there prior to me due to failure to recruit. I left there that first year. I became recruiter of the year for Oklahoma City. And I ended up winning almost every award that you could in Marine Corps recruiting. And I walked away with 88 recruits, and I'd recruited several for other recruiters who were struggling.
Okay. So I've always wondered this, if you don't make a quota for recruitments, do you get relieved?
If it adds up. So 1 month, you'll have to go through special training to kind of see where the problem is. And as you know, Marines are humans too. So some Marines, they'll avoid the work of making telephone calls or walking out and shaking hands. And if you don't put the work in, you won't build the contracts. Not in these little towns, not in these country towns. You have to actually go out, knock on doors, meet people. You have to be willing to put yourself out there. And some people weren't willing to do that. And it adds up over time. You miss 1 month. All right. That might be a fluke. You miss 2 months. All right. Now we might have an issue here. 3 months, it's starting to look bad. And you do get relieved eventually.
Okay. Gotcha. What happens if you get relieved? They kick you out or send you?
You get sent back to the fleet with they have a certain name for it. It's been a while since I've been in the Marine Corps. So I believe it's relieved for cause or something like that. And it goes on your record forever. So it might keep you from getting promoted. And some ranks you're forced out, as you guys know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure the years that you guys went in, it might be a little bit different from when I was in. I talked to Pat often about it, and a lot of things have changed since I left.
Yeah, I know. I was in 14 to 18. I can't remember when Pat was in, and
I did
like 13, 18.
10 to 14. And I think we had one guy in my unit. he wasn't in my section, but he got sent back, but I don't think it was failure to make mission. I think he was acting a fool type thing. And that guy was out pretty quick within like a year. I'm trying to remember his name. It wasn't that memorable, but all of a sudden we just had a recruiter show up, and all he did was work out. So
you have to conduct yourself in a professional manner. You're representing the organization. I mean, that's just plain and simple.
Yeah. I don't, like, there's fleet being in the Marine Corps, like the fleet, the operating forces, and then there's the, what John A. taxpayer sees, especially in Oklahoma, right, like you're saying, and it's like, you're the billboard, you're the man in the Charlies, the dress blues, going out talking to these kids. Now, if you're acting like a degenerate out in town, it's a little bit different to do that in Oklahoma City, representing the Marine Corps, than Oceanside, California, where there's 230 something years of Marines doing that nonsense. So,
and it leaves lasting impressions in these small towns' minds because they're so patriotic. They look at us in a different light. They don't look, we walk among great men. We walk among people who do extraordinary things. So for us, we don't always look at each other in that light. We see each other as just brother, friend, someone to lean on. We don't look at each other the way that they look. And we often forget that. These small towns, they idolize the Marine Corps. They look up to the Marine Corps. It means something. And it's up to us to protect that and safeguard that.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I can definitely identify. I come from a small town. It's in Wisconsin, so a bit different. But definitely what you said about the deer hunting. We used to start school a week later because of the county fair, and so many kids would show animals in the county fair that we wouldn't have anybody at school. So I really appreciate
that's awesome.
Yeah, but yeah, I know I could have never been a recruiter, mostly because I didn't know where half my uniforms were at some time. So yeah, hats off to you, man. I could not have done that.
Oh, thank you, Kyle.
Hats off to you for speaking positively about it. The only
Yeah, it was.
I've known that's done it and not hated it.
Well, I told somebody this the other day. They asked me, how was recruiting? And I said, I was doing exceptionally well and it was still terrible. So it was very hard. Even if you're winning, it's hard. And it never feels like you're winning out there. You always feel like you're behind, because public perception is a hard thing to judge.
Mm-hmm. So I don't want to get off on like a huge recruiting tangent, but I do have this one question because it just popped into my mind. What years did you do recruiting?
2010. I believe it was 2010 to 2013.
Okay.
I believe. I might be a little off there. I might have just went in 2009, but I got out in 2013, the end of 2013.
Okay. Do you have to I'm sure it was different in Oklahoma, right? I'm from California, like San Francisco Bay, right? So two completely different places. But did you have to deal with any sort of anti-war sentiment or anything like that when you were recruiting?
I did, but during my first 2 years of the Marine Corps, I started to have a political evolution on mindset. I started to look at how we were conducting ourselves in the world, acting as a world police. And even though I cherish the Marine Corps and I love our military, I don't believe that that's the proper way to utilize us. I think that comes with a costly bill to the taxpayer. And I can understand the anti-war. That just because you're anti-war doesn't mean that you're anti-soldier or troop. I love the troops. I love the soldiers. I'm proud of my Marine Corps career, but still, I would always avoid war if possible. It's honorable. I would say it's honorable to want peace. It's honorable to be anti-war, but it's also honorable to step up when your nation needs you, and when it's a serious threat, and to take that on and to fight when you need to.
Okay. I'm glad that you mentioned that. I actually have a couple questions kind of based on that, but I'll save that for a little bit later when we sort of get into your campaign, all that stuff. And Pat, Kyle, if you guys have like anything you want to add, just speak up. If not, I'll just keep running my mouth. So
because as I've gotten older and with my background and the places I've been, I find myself becoming a warmongering pacifist in a weird way. And I know that's a very contradicting statement. It's like, I just hate, like, there's a lot of, for instance, a country I'm attached to, there's a lot of unrest going on. And the initial knee-jerk reaction is, the United States needs to step in. Well, plot twist on the one hand, the United States has already stepped in there years ago, and I don't think they made it worse. I just don't think they made it better. But it's like, and to get a little personal, we're coming up on the anniversary on one of the worst days of my life as a contractor. It's been 2 years since, a couple good men lost their lives. And it's like, man, I have no problem volunteering my time to go to some of these places as a contractor, working with that government and helping their troops and advisement missions, but to force some kid joining from Oklahoma City who's just, like, why is that country we're going to? Like, it's weird, like I believe in doing, violence of action is necessary, especially in the conflict that's happening in the country I care about. But at the same time, it's not at the expense of US service members. So it's like I teetered on this weird contradiction in a weird way, but I'm definitely over the years become way more, maybe not well, I think anti-war, but that line of anti-intervention, maybe pro-advisement would be my policy at this point.
yeah, I think,
not to interrupt, but you're a warrior, Pat. You've shown that over the years. It's ingrained in you. So whenever you're a warrior, your mind's always looking for that war to fight. And the United States, we need those warriors. They're very valuable to us, but that doesn't mean that we should utilize them recklessly.
Oh, for sure. And to get into what both you guys are saying, um, I think our politicians have just done an awful job, really. I mean, just leading the wars, leading the military, like in general, right? When you talk about, Pat, when you talk about, hey, you know, why should we send this 18-year-old kid from Oklahoma City halfway across the world to some desert, right? Politicians need to do a good job of explaining why we're going to a certain place, right? And they haven't done that, at least not, you know, for as long as I've been alive. You know, Iraq, Afghanistan, other places, right? Like Libya in 2011, Syria, like plenty of places. Why are we going here? What exactly are we doing? Why are we doing it?
I agree. It's a great point, Brody.
It hurts, man. Like it really does, you know, because specifically one of the countries like I'm talking about, and it's in the Caribbean, and they need help. But am I willing? You know, I'm probably gonna be having children in the next several years. It's like, am I willing to send my kid to that country? You know, like I don't like I have no problem going because I'm making a personal choice to put myself in danger. And yeah, there is a financial gain to it, but you know, sometimes the compensation is not worth it like what you would think. It's more because I want to do those things, but I don't, you know, think the taxpayer should fund that. You know, I think that's if there's someone from that country who has family down there and has a little bit of money, yeah, I have no problem where their government needs help and they're putting jobs out for guys who have operated in that zone and understand and have no problem teaching their police force and their military medical stuff. Hell yeah, man. But now that you know my neighbor's dollar, like that's not his problem. The stuff going on down there is not gonna affect him. I promise that.
Yeah, and Americans have proven that when a war is just, they'll step up, they'll raise their right hands, they'll take on the fight. They'll line up across in lines to step up and take on the enemy. So I just feel that Americans are patriot, but we should not ever abuse that either because that could stop.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, 100%. 100%.
There's also war fatigue.
Right.
Yeah.
War fatigue. That's legitimate.
Maybe to caveat a little early into the campaign, but not so much obviously what you're going to do, but it's like, I don't know. I'm very curious to see how many of these politicians, you know, have this war for like understand like guys like us who have been, you know, into the, you know, the 7-on 5-off, the contracts, like, you know, guys who were Desert Storm dudes got onto the Blackwater game in 02, 03, and then they've just been in Iraq, Afghanistan, like in these combat zones since 03. You know, like the 2003 Iraq push guys are retiring soon, you know, 20 years of doing that type of stuff. So it's like, you know, going through that 7-on 5-off. And like, I'm very curious to see like if how many of your God willing future peers understand that war fatigue of like this is years upon years of like deployments, missed Christmases, friends getting hurt, dying. It's taking their own life. You know, I don't know. I don't know if people actually get that. And that's something that I think about a lot. So I think that's why we need more veterans in Congress, especially the fact we've been, you know, warring for so long. So that's my biggest like, hey man, what's the next move with our boys and girls over there?
It's like the politicians never see the human cost
Right.
because we're just, you know, we're numbers.
Right.
And you send numbers to places and, you know, some come back, some don't. And the ones that do come back, you know, sometimes they come back with stuff that nobody should have to come back with. And this, you know, gets into like the mental health aspect, but you know, that doesn't ever affect someone making those decisions, or I should say rarely. It rarely affects them. So really understanding why we're sending them there, who we're sending. That's something that it would be nice to see. Like
Right.
veterans right now are still fighting for, you know, the burn pit registration. They can't get benefits for burn pits, which is
Right.
ridiculous. You know, like it's unbelievable that that's even a thing.
Right. You're right. You're right. Yeah, and it's one thing, you know, I'm not trying to make a dig at any of these politicians. I'm just saying that when you have a politician who grows up in his mom and dad's household, and then they leave and they go to college, they spend 8 years in college becoming a lawyer, and then they go directly into politics. They never understand. They never have a chance to understand what it means to live out in society, live out in the real world. They've never even had to earn a proper paycheck. They've never had the struggles. So then these people are the ones making the decision to send us to war. They can't wrap their brains around it.
Yeah, exactly. And that leads into almost like, I think you mentioned earlier, there's like patriotism, but there's also like this false sense of patriotism, like, you know, go where your country demands you, don't question it, you know, don't ever speak out against anything your country does. And that's not healthy for anybody. So I really like that you brought that point up, because there's a difference between, you know, this patriotism, which is great, and, you know, it should be a normal thing for Americans, but like blind and false patriotism,
Get us in trouble.
It's not going to get us anywhere.
I think that's why we need more veterans in Congress and in the Senate. And like, I'm not one of these guys who thinks the president should have to serve in the military. I'm not one of these guys who thinks that everyone should serve in the military. But I definitely think to bridge away from that, or to get away from that tribalism, because I feel that we're all on teams right now, you know, like we're whether you're team R, team D, team Trump, team Biden, team Harris, you know, like I feel like everyone's on a team right now. And like, yeah, that's cool, but you know, these are politicians, these are public servants, these aren't our favorite baseball players. I think with like more veterans in Congress, especially in Senate, you know, you could be like, you know what, man, I don't like that guy, like his views, but that dude, you know, is kind of worth his grain and salt, and or you know, worth his worth. And I'm going to be able to talk to this dude, because in the end, like, he was in the Marine Corps, I was in the Marine Corps, and we have that. And you know, there are a couple Congress people that, like, on the other side of, you know, depending on the subject of the aisle, that I don't, you know, care for, but at least I'm like, you know what, all right, you know, like, that's kind of how I kind of fell in love with Tulsi Gabbard, you know, just like, you know, wasn't really for me, and then I just started listening. I'm like, you know, a couple pumps to Iraq. Let me listen to what she got to say. You know, like, this lady seems like she gets it. You know, maybe not all the way for me, but like, I'll listen to her talk all day.
That's like, I think that's a super important point that you bring up. Like, you don't have to have a favorite politician who you agreeing with your, you know, whatever politician there is, like agreeing with them on everything. That's not realistic. It doesn't make sense. That's not going to happen. So I like that you said that. And then some of the best advice I've ever gotten was from my college professors. Like, if you look across the political aisle and you can't agree, or even try to agree with the, you know, something the other person is saying, then like, you're the one that needs to do the work. Like, we have to come together as a, you know, you don't have to agree on everything, but, you know, just seeing them as a person with valid opinions is really important.
Yeah, I think that's pretty solid advice. Sorry, I probably looked kind of distracted. I guess I didn't realize you have to like upgrade to the Pro to get unlimited recording time or whatever. So I just went ahead and did that. But I was paying attention. I think you guys are all bringing up pretty good points. I think running for office as a veteran definitely gives you another level of respect, I guess. And I'm not saying you should have to be a veteran to run for, Congress or the president or anything like that, right? But it definitely helps. It gives you a certain level of respect that other candidates don't get, for obvious reasons. And it should give you, I don't want to say a different knowledge base, but I don't know, just experiences that other candidates can't relate to, right? And that gives you more insight that they don't have.
That's right.
So I guess to go back a little bit, did you get to deploy or anything with Third L or not Third LA or Third Lab?
I spent time in the Horn of Africa, almost a year.
Okay, which country?
It was in Djibouti and North Somalia.
Okay, and how was that?
It was good. We were acting as a security unit. We did everything from guard the docks where the boats enter, because that's a big issue in Africa is protecting the watercrafts. We had forward operating bases that kind of sit in between, and we would protect units that were going down to operate with communications, and got to learn how to utilize biometrics for finger scans and retinal scans when the equipment was rather new. And you had to carry around a giant box to utilize this because this was like the first telephone of its kind, so it was a good experience. I got to work with really great men. One of the most valuable things that I had happen on that deployment was my roommate that I got, or my can mate is what you would call him, I guess. My can mate, he was a guy from Texas, and his leadership was just outstanding. He was a natural born leader. And it's so good, like when you get to spend time with someone that has those abilities to kind of look and see how they do things and kind of work that into your system and how you act. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To look at their leadership abilities and see how they handle certain situations. And he was just a natural, God rest his soul. He was a good man. And I was just always blown away at how he always wanted to step up and take charge. And he was just a hard charger. And I would watch this man and see how he acted. And I thought, man, he isn't letting age affect his way of wanting to step forward. I grew up in a country town where you kind of let your elders move forward with decisions, and then you follow along with what your elders want. And then eventually you're the elder and you make the decision. But this kid had a different mindset. He was ready to take charge at his age, a very young age. And it rubbed off on me. And I ended up getting to run my first patrol at the age of 19. So that was a big experience for me, to get to lead men out and go through the whole process of building a 5-paragraph order. And I mean, most veterans, anybody watching this who isn't a veteran probably wouldn't understand that reference, but this is the whole planning process that goes into making sure that the men know what they're going to take with them on the patrol, your different checkpoints, and mapping it all out and getting it squared away so that you can achieve a mission and then come back safely.
I remember that being quite a process when I was at AMC. I got red pen to death by my instructors. So yeah, don't remember it too fondly, but yeah, a lot of work goes into it.
Difficult.
And
I will say that, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I will say that getting to communicate with people outside of America and getting to see the way they live was an eye opener. Getting to see the different walks of life and realize how truly blessed we are. I always felt blessed for being in America, but to see it and to know that I was going to get to go home, I was going to get to go back to my way of life. But my views and I always remember my time over there. And when I come over here, I realized that this could go south real quick.
How did the locals feel about your presence there?
It was a mixed bag. Some people liked us there, and they were able to benefit from us being there. Whether it was they were given a job to do, and so they could earn a little bit of income. As you know, the military does provide certain jobs. And also we provide humanitarian hearts and minds. So we're bringing food and water to villages and medicine and really taking care of the locals. And that helps us win over people so that they'll give us information on the things that we need.
Mhm.
So I'm sure it was beneficial to have us around for most of them. But there was the people who were happy with us. They would have been very happy with us leaving. They didn't want the imposition that, us coming in and imposing.
Yeah, it's interesting to think that like our military is in all these countries, like all over the world, and it's just something like we don't even really think about that much. But if the tables were turned, like if Djibouti brought their military over here like that, we probably wouldn't care for that too much.
We would not care for that.
Yeah.
And it's funny that you say that, because I had an interview recently, and the man is very intelligent who I had the interview with, and he was kind of telling me where he stood with interventionists and going and to these different countries. And I kind of made the point, I used some, a country that we're friendly with. I said Ireland. I said I read a lot of posts from Ireland, and they have a lot of ideas on how to fix us, and we have a lot of issues right now. But we wouldn't appreciate Ireland coming up and setting shop over here trying to line us out. And I still feel I understand where those people, not so much in Africa where they were more friendly to us being there, but in other parts of the world where they don't want us there. When you come to places like Japan, we've been there for a long time, and the people of Japan will protest, but we have deals with their government, so we stay. But that's against the will of the people. The Japanese want us out of there.
Yeah, no, I get where you're coming from 100%.
To be fair, though, and don't get me wrong, once again, kind of talking out both sides of my mouth, it's easy to be very edgy and cool about like, oh, we need to get out of Japan, or excuse me, a Japanese citizen. But my man, you also just started your military again, like a year and a half ago, I think. Japan didn't have a military; they had the defense.
Right.
So, and this is something when I talk to people when they're like, "Oh, our defense budget's too high," I was like, "No, you mean the world's defense budget is too high, because." Think about all the countries we throw money into. AFRICOM, which funds all these militaries, Kurdish forces, which get political real quick. That's its own country to a lot of people. The Iraqi military, the Afghan military, belligerent amount of the Balkans, NATO, the UN, a lot of Asian countries, Kyrgyzstan. I don't think we're in Uzbekistan anymore. I'm pretty adamant that the fact that we foot a decent bill for all these nice little Nordic countries. So between them not having a military and, us footing, them not having a military, us providing the protection, and then you add in their 50% tax rate, they're able to do all the fancy stuff over there that they do. So it's like when we start talking about all this stuff, it's like, hey man, you do realize if we leave, either China's going to come in or you're going to have to figure this out yourself.
Right.
So, and I like, and that's, once again, do I think that's cool? To an extent, yes and no, but like, it's like, okay, it's easy to take all these troops out, but remember, buddy, like,
Right.
it's your problem.
Yeah, this is where, I can see it both ways. I can see it from like the Japanese people's side. I can see how would I feel in Missouri, if they were over here. I would feel the same way. But then there's going to be consequences for actions on both decisions. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's like, okay, if you don't, Missourians, you don't want the Japanese here. And granted, the American mentality is completely different, but
right, it is. Yeah.
For the last 70 years, you've been having, Papasan, coming in. Yeah, he acts like a jerk, but he's still bringing his friends around, and they're paying, your soccer, for your bar, your business to be open. And all of a sudden, that's gone, and then you're going to be the one that's going to have to deal with the bullies that come around. Probably
Right.
going to be a bit mad, and
right.
it's kind of I don't know, is American exceptionalism the American burden at this point? I don't know, the American experiment. But like, there's a lot of influence with, that's being altered right now, even in South America with the Russian troops and not even Russian troops, Russian private contractors just running around South America doing what they want. And it's like, do we care about that? Do we not? Like, it's weird because I teeter. I hate that I'm talking both sides out of my mouth, but at the same time, it's like I kind of get both sides of it too. So, that's why you're a better man than me trying to fix it, man. I just like to go
Well,
around.
it's good that you do look at it from both sides.
Yeah.
If you're one-minded on it, you would probably be wrong, right? I mean, the world's complicated. These are not simple. It's easy for a politician to come out and say, "I'll fix it by doing this," but it's a lot more difficult than that. There's always going to be. We're going to have to pay somewhere. Something's going to occur. There's consequences to all of our actions, and we have to realize that. We have to understand that if we really want the change to occur.
Did you guys lose him?
Yeah, I lost him. I don't.
Okay. I think he's coming back.
You back with me, Jacob?
Maybe.
Yeah, I'm here. Yep.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah,
here.
you cut out for
Can you see me?
10 seconds or something like that. Yeah, we could see you.
Okay. All right. I think it's good. We have a storm hitting here in Missouri, so it's.
Okay.
We do have that happening. Yes. But,
You're in Missouri too, right, Pat?
yeah, today I am in Missouri. Yes, that is.
Are you in the district that Jacob's running for, or are you in a different district?
Yes, so I know it's a little premature, and I know, my 1,100 Instagram followers, Jacob Turner has my vote. I don't care about the R, the D, the L next to his name. I want one that I know, in that perspective. Two, and I know maybe we're jumping a little ahead of the race with the podcast and everything, but I believe in who Jacob Turner is as a man. I believe that getting a veteran in Congress is exactly what we need, because I know he'll talk to someone on the other side of both aisles that he'll be in. And I think I have the privilege of meeting him and knowing him and talking to him probably way more than his wife gets to talk to him at this point. So like I said, my endorsement means nothing, but yes, I am in Jacob's district and I am going to vote for him. So
Thanks, Pat. Those were nice words.
it's the truth, man. Like I don't need to say that to blow smoke. I think I'm not big into this. We need to change this or that, but I don't know. At some point, the incumbent has been at the plate for about not was it since nine years at this point.
2013, he arrived at this district in Congress, but he left state government. So he's been in government for a very long time.
Yeah, I'm not big into the career politicians. And Jacob, the caveat into what you told on the other show is you did say that you only wanted to do the government thing for 8 years, correct?
I will. I believe in term limits, and I believe in 8 years for Congress. However, I do believe that if you wanted to venture off into another field of politics, because the House and the Senate are completely different on how they run, the matters that they handle, the way that they go about, and you can have different effects in those. So I believe that someone should probably be able to do 2 terms in the Senate, because the Senate is every 6 years is the vote. With Congress, it's every 2 years. So I feel that maybe 8 years would be fair if we set term limits, which I'm 100% for, and 8 years in Congress and then 12 years in the Senate. And I feel like that's fair. If you can't get your agenda across in that time in 2 different forms of sides of the government, then you should probably not be in government.
I definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
And it also kind of keeps the 20 year of service, whether it's local government, being a police officer, firefighter, and the military as well.
And it's challenging to the incumbent or to the person running too, because it's easier to be loved in a district. A district's a small area of that state. The Senate, much larger. So to move from Congress into the Senate is a big deal. A lot of people have to believe in you. A lot of people have to trust you. So if you want to finish your career out, you got to do what you say you're going to do in Congress, or nobody's going to believe you in the Senate. And that, if you follow that path, that will keep politicians more honest, I believe.
Yeah, I think it'll also root out. I've met a couple in New York. I'm originally from Queens, where you have people who, are strictly running as Democrats, but they are, they're New York conservatives, which to the average person in Lower East Side probably doesn't like. But because they have that D next to the name, gets my vote, And it's probably the same thing in more conservative states, guys, they have more left leaning tendencies, but they're getting the vote of the R because he's running as a Republican, and not a lot of people read their policies, and or the bills they voted on, for example. So
Right. There's a reason I chose my party. First of all, I'm running as a Libertarian, and I chose the Libertarian Party because the Libertarian Party, it's the Liberty Party, the LIB of Libertarian. A lot of people don't know that. There's been a lot of misconceptions and misunderstandings about that. The LIB of Libertarian is for liberty. So we are, to put it for 8th District, or the people watching from 8th District, if they want to have a better understanding, every 2 years, 4 years, or 6 years, a politician will come out from the Republican Party and they'll start talking about liberties, freedoms, your rights, how we're going to fight for your rights. And they say this, and they get their base all riled up and pumped up and ready to vote. Then these Republican politicians here get in office. They even had control for the first 2 years of Trump's election, or of Trump's term. And they chose to do nothing to gain back the liberties and freedoms that have been stolen away from the people. For that, they had the whole 2 years, they sat on their hands, they chose to do nothing. So that shows me they're not about what they're talking. They're just selling people an idea. The Libertarian Party is completely different. We get an opportunity to show the people, I'll do what I say.
Yeah, and I think Pat was talking about working on, I guess for you as a libertarian, you would be working with either side of the aisle. You would sort of be in the middle, right? Or kind of just off
Right.
off somewhere else, As a libertarian, I think you would have you would either have people that would like you, right, from Democrat, Republican. They would like you because you're not, a D or an R, or they would dislike you because you're not a D or an R, right? But I think you have a unique opportunity to grow relationships, I guess, with both parties. Not only, a relationship between yourself and someone from either party, but, the two parties with each other, right? Since you're, I guess, an outside party.
Right. And the way I've seen it going into this is, once you attach the R, or once you attach the D to your name, well, now you have to answer to that party. When you go to make a decision, you got to make sure that checks and clears with them first, because you're representing them. The Libertarian Party offered me the ability to do things the way I want to do them. I don't have to answer to anybody. I just have to respect the libertarian, what it means to be a libertarian. And because those are my beliefs and where I fall anyways, I believe the libertarian spirit is very similar to what you would see like the American spirit. When you talk about the spirit of America, it's being independent. It's willing to go out and craft your own destiny with your bare hands and just go out and work for what you want. It's about wanting the government to back off of you and just allow you to move forward and move this country into a good direction. Too many times we're stifled by the government. It's almost like people are trying to achieve success and they're trying to move forward and gain a piece of that American dream. But the whole time they're dragging the government behind them. They're tied to them, So we're not making it easy for people. We need to remove those roadblocks and start putting people in position who will help push people forward, give them a push instead of pulling them back.
I think another thing that the Libertarian Party can bring is hold both sides of the aisle extremely more accountable. I think there's a lot of politicians in Congress, especially that I'll call maybe meme politicians, or meme politicians. And you have people like the Squad, and then on the other side you have, I don't represent it, Congresswoman Green or something like that. She's from Georgia, and
Yeah,
these people are pretty much memes, and like it's just like, hey man, like you actually, now that you're gonna talk to me, because obviously you two are not adults and you can't talk to each other without screaming, so you're gonna talk to me, and I'm gonna be the adult in the room, and I'm gonna hold you accountable. Because there's a percentage of Americans right now who like, yeah, it's funny that you both are incompetent, but you're going to actually have to do something, and you're actually going to have to be more than an edgy soundbite or something ridiculous. Because obviously, I don't see Congresswoman Green and I don't see Congresswoman Cortez ever talking in the same room. But they'll talk to a guy like Jacob Turner, who's going to be like, okay, ladies, the adults, let's talk, because. And now that you're going to have to be more than just a tweet of, you're going to be more than just like, what are you doing going down to the border and freaking taking pictures? What do you mean you're a U.S. Congresswoman and you don't know Guam is a territory? Like, come on, like come on. And it's no different than that one gentleman who said Guam might sink if we put a military base on there. Like, all right, give us the keys, go home and think about what you just said, because
It's time for him to hang it up.
Well, I think that's what like men and women like you are gonna have to do, and I'd like this, and eventually just by military leadership, I'd like to see someone like possibly like Dan Crenshaw and Tulsi Gabbard, like these military veterans who are in Congress, being like, hey, you guys actually have to do things. You can't just meme your way into elections, because we're gonna wake up and it's gonna be 26 years of Congresswoman Green or Congresswoman Cortez or someone who may have just got elected in the first district, that we're just kind of like, what have you done other than just say the edgy things and post Twitter stuff?
And I tell people all the time, I'm not going to the Hill to make friends either. If they're doing the American people wrong, we're gonna have problems. I'm gonna hold you accountable. I'm not going up there to play your kid games or get in the middle of the squabble between your two parties. But you better do the American people right. That's just how it's going to have to be. They need to send an adult there, and that's what I will be. I will be the adult.
It's unfortunate. I'm sorry, I'm kind of dominating conversation at this point, but it's unfortunate that that's what it's coming down to. And like I said, I'd love to see more service members, especially whether they have R's or D's or L's on their name, kind of bridge that gap between these essentially people who have not done anything with their lives. Like, I don't know what Green was doing. I'm sure it was nothing, but I know, the joke of AOC is that she was a bartender. Yeah. I was a bartender at one point too. It's a very demanding career, but like, you're only winning your district because you're the shiny new object with an R or a D next to your name. Like, Green's district, I think she gets 3,000 votes or something ridiculous. AOC's was like 2,000 to 3,000. And these are the two people that you hear constantly over and over again. And I'm like, these people are idiots. They're incompetent, and they're no different than Twitterites. They're no different than a Kardashian to me. And these are the people who assist in legislature that get a lot of press time too, which is the unfortunate part.
Yeah. Well, they make headlines, right? Before I forget to mention it, this is politics is still really new to what we do here, right? We mostly kind of stuck to international news, wars and conflicts, and then we really, I guess, started getting into politics after what happened on January 6th, right? So, like, you're the first candidate I've ever interviewed, for sure. I mean, I'm sure the same goes for both Kyle and Pat. So before we keep going, I want to say that, and you guys can say whatever your political opinions are if you want. That's completely up to you. But for full disclosure, I'm a registered independent, right? I voted Libertarian in 2016. If I had to describe my ideology, I guess I'd call myself a constitutionalist. And for those who don't know what that is, it's basically, I believe in how the Constitution was written, and I think that's how our government should be run, right? As opposed to conservative ideals or liberal ideas or ideals from any other ideology. So I try and keep this as unbiased as I can, but we're all human. So my bias is going to show up inevitably at some point. So I just want to say that for myself.
Yeah, I mean, I voted for Republicans and I voted for Democrats. I would love if there was a third party, and that was a Libertarian Party. I'd love to see them at a national level, because I think that would help, at least go a long way to fixing some of the problems we have in politics. So, I mean, I think it's amazing that you're on here, Jacob, running for national office and sitting down and doing this podcast with us. It's just having an accessible, real person that wants to talk to, the people that are voting for him. I mean, not Kirk and I, obviously, but it's a nice thing to be able to do. And I think that the Libertarian Party is really good at that, is that, like, connecting with, everyday normal people. And that's where Republicans and Democrats have kind of gone astray. They'll have, big events where you pay a lot of money to go, shake hands and take a picture with them. But they don't care about your story. They don't really care about you. They don't care about where you've been. So it's just, I do appreciate you sitting down and talking with us.
Yeah. Hey, thank you. It's been an honor, man. I've really enjoyed this.
Sorry, let me fix my camera real quick.
I think the biggest thing, though, that, like, just having the air quote outsider come in, and this is kind of what I thought, that Trump would do, is that I'd like to believe that even if, Jacob doesn't win, or the libertarian candidate in Ohio doesn't win, or this state or that state, that person that comes in and just is like, I can't just ride my R or my D. I actually have to do something. I have to prove to these people that I am doing something. Like, Donald Trump was a Democrat up until 2015 or 2013 or whatever, registered at least. And then this dude just came in and just, memed his way to the presidency. And I was hoping it's like, okay, these establishment Republicans and these Democrats that were going to be like, we can't just like this changed everything. And unfortunately, I think a lot of things did change. And I think some good things happened and some bad things, obviously happened. But it's like, how awesome would it be is like, okay, maybe the Libertarian Party isn't winning, but these Republicans or Democrats are actually like, I have to care about this. Like, I have to just do things again. And like, to me, I think everyone wins. Like, yeah, it'd be awesome, for someone that I trust and I know to be in Congress. But if this is what lights a fire under the incumbent's, butt to do something, because he's like this dude out of nowhere, just, because I think he's been running against Kathy Ellis for years, right, Jacob? Like it's been an annual.
That's correct.
Yeah, it's been an annual showdown of 72 to 24%, each time, right? And it's like, now we have this dude, and it's so early, and there's so much momentum, and like, and I'm pumped about it. I'm pumped to know you. I'm pumped to, have you on these podcasts, and it's, maybe you don't win, but you get that 30%, 40%. This guy's gonna be like, where did this come out of?
It'll put the fear in him, and it'll let him know that he needs to get to work. I want to say, man, I'm so blown away by the support of this district so far. The people that have reached out, the positive messages that I'm receiving, it's insane. And how fast these people are, I think they're really fed up. They want something different. They just never had a real opportunity. And every time that someone comes along like me the Republican or the Democrat, whoever is the incumbent, will say something like this. They'll say, don't vote for them. They'll split the vote. And then if they split the vote, well, then, hey, guess what? That party that, that other party, they're going to win. That's just how it works. We're too close. Here in 8th District, we don't have that problem. And that's been something I've been explaining to the people and really putting them at ease. Our numbers are so skewed. The Republicans carry 80%. On a good year, the Democrats pull 20. So that means I could split the vote right down the middle, and the Democrats are nowhere close, because 20% is a big number in an election. They're not pulling those numbers. They just don't have those numbers here. They just don't. We're a very Republican district, or conservative district. And so now, if you're really fed up with this guy and you're wanting somebody who's going to be a man of action, someone who's going to step up and do what they say, someone who this means something to, because I live in this district, I earn my living in this district, I am raising my children in this district. I was born here, and I plan to be laid to rest here. I love Southeast Missouri. I want to see it. I want to see it prosper and grow and do good things, because my kids are going to one day be living in this community, and I want them to have good opportunities. So I'm willing to go to work. My opponent doesn't have children. He doesn't have a family. He doesn't have those things. So he doesn't, to him, what is it? He just gets to get in there and line his pockets with whatever he can, cash out, and then sell the American people down the road, and then go on about his business. There's no skin in the game. But for me, I'm one of the people here,
Just, I don't know if we said it earlier, and Jacob works on the ambulance he's out there in a county of what, almost 100,000, 90,000. It's over 70. I'd have to look at the number. Granted, the school will skew our population to an extent, but he's out there providing aid to these people, and he's also a firefighter. So he didn't just do the 4 years, 5 years, 6-year military service. He's also still out there serving, and I think that's a testament to just what, and it's not just to you, it's just any of these Congress people who did the fire department, working with EMS. It's still being out in the community. You sign that air quote blank check, and I think a lot of vets, they're just like, well, I did 4 years of semi honorable service, and then I'm done. But it's like, okay, never stop serving. What can I do? And that's something,
right.
It's like, you got two good legs, you got a good brain, you got 2 arms, and you got a good heart. Might as well keep going.
That's right. Keep driving.
Going up the ladder into Congress,
Right.
I don't know how many of these politicians went from, okay, they're working as a lawyer and whatnot. And, obviously those are needed, in litigation's an important thing in society, but to have someone who was literally still out in the fight, a different type of battlefield, and get a little tacky, to keep going post-service, and then want to show people like, hey man, it is not just about going to war. It's about coming back and doing something half decent in your community. That's another unique fold. I don't know how many Congress people have that in our government. I'd have to research that. You might be the only medic, or the only firefighter in Congress. Definitely going to be active. They're the only active one.
Yeah, besides owning my business, it's doing well, and it provides a great life for my family. But that drive to serve, wherever that came from, whether it was instilled by my family or I don't know where that comes from. You guys have it too, So I just, in my spare time, I like to be able to still serve, and the ambulance is a great way to do that. Working in emergency medicine, especially during COVID. One of the things that helped push me into politics was the fact that these politicians who have no skin in the game, I use that term a lot, but it's very fitting for these people. They're up on the hill, and they're protected, and they're politicizing COVID. They're making games out of it. And, you're this if you don't believe it, and that if you do. And while that's taking place, I'm down here riding the ambulance with people who really have it. I'm holding the hand of someone who's, they're on death's door, trying to help put them at ease, and help in the best manner that I can. So for me to turn on the news and to see it politicized, and then to go and do my day a week, I do 1 day a week on the ambulance outside of my job, my full-time job, and to go and do that 1 day, and then I'm seeing the effects that are happening on a ground level. You can't help but take offense to this. You can't help but be angry that they would do these kind of things or have these kind of actions, and it drives you to want to show the people in your district, hey, we can have better. We can have better. We can have people who really care, who are willing to put it on the line, whether it's raising your right hand and going overseas and putting it on the line there, or whether it's here sitting in the back of an enclosed box with someone who has COVID and not knowing. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm willing to risk it. And I was asked today in a message, and it's funny, and the guy said, how do I know you'll fight for me? How do I know you'll fight for me? How do I know you'll fight for the things that I want? And honestly, I don't know his political beliefs. It's just a comment, but these are things I've never had to deal with. So I had to stop and think, I said, look, take a look and look at my page. I have interviews out. I have all these things. You can look and see if your political views align. But here's the thing. I've been a fighter my whole life. I've been a servant my whole life, and I will continue to serve. So if my record doesn't show that, if you can't see it from what I've done thus far, this is the one thing is I don't want to come off being gross trying to sell the fact. I want my actions to speak. No one can fake it this long. This would be a heck of a game if I had been faking this desire to serve the people this long, all these years. Do you see what I'm saying? My track record, it proves itself. I'm willing to risk it all for the people of America, and I'm willing to go to the Hill and do it again. There's a lot of corruption. There's a lot of people who get bought off right in the beginning. Something that we found out that we weren't aware of when you open a campaign. It's a very costly endeavor. And right off the bat, all these young, hungry politicians, they get in there and they start taking money from people. They start taking money. Well, now they owe favors. So they get to the Hill, and guess what? Right off the bat, they're bought. So they want to do something. No, don't do that. You'll vote no on this bill. You want to vote against human trafficking, which is a real issue that happened in this district. You want to vote against human trafficking? No, I don't think so. You're gonna vote no. We're not going to increase security in Missouri. They're bought and paid for. That's why I refuse to be a part of the R or the D. I won't join that mess, and I will not take money from any lobbyists or special interest groups. We're a campaign funded by the people, for the people. We will work for the people, but it's going to be us riding together. So you want to ride with me, we can go forward, but I will not be bought by these special interest groups.
And real quick, if someone wants to donate to your campaign, where can they do that?
You can go to jacobturner.nationbuilder.com. I have a whole website, and there's actually a donations tab. If you would like to join to be a volunteer to help out with the team, we would love to have you on the team. That's also, say you don't have the ability to donate. Well, being a part of the team can help just as much.
Okay. And I'll go ahead and I'll put that in the show notes when I go publish this podcast too. So it's easier for people to find.
Perfect.
Give me 1 second here.
Yeah, Jacob, I don't know. I'm a little bit fanboying just a bit, and obviously there is probably a bias. It's because I know you, but I don't know. I don't know if I'm the greatest person in the world, but I like to believe in I do like to help others, and that's about the only redeemable quality I may or may have these days. So I don't know. Like I said, you have my endorsement, you have my vote. I believe in what you're pushing, man. Like I said, I've been on this soapbox a couple times today. I think we need more veterans in Congress. I think need more, whether it's third party libertarians or just someone else to hold, some of these incumbents accountable. And win, lose, indifferent, I know that Jacob Turner is going to do something and make America a little bit better for, the people. And I think you're already making the 8th district make the 8th district accountable again. You know, if that could be this, if that could be the slogan, you know, I don't. We'll get our gold hats and we'll be wearing that again. We'll be wearing a gold hat like that. So I think that's the biggest message that we can do. Win, lose, or draw, we're going to make these people accountable. So.
Yeah, the thing, getting out and getting to spread the message. But I will honestly tell you, I'm coming to win. I'm not coming just to get out and worry. And when we talk about that, that's a side effect of worst case scenario. But I'm coming to win this. I'm going to work hard. I'm a worker, and I've been a worker my whole life. So when I set my mind to something, I'll go after it. I'm a dog on a bone, and I want to obtain this so that I can help be beneficial to my community. It means a lot. And I can't sit and watch the news all day, every day, and not act. You can only wait so long for someone to come along and fix it for you. Before you have to step up, you have to do it yourself. And that's just the bottom line about it.
Is that why you kind of decided to jump right into the national level rather than local or state?
I wanted to be able to make the most difference, the most difference, and be able to have the greatest impact on our nation. And I looked at the different offices and looked, where could I be most beneficial? And I thought, well, maybe with my knowledge and with my experience in the military, because Congress is supposed to be the ones to decide if we go to war or not. You know, in the old days, that was the proper way. That's our rules say that that's supposed to be the way. But yeah, that's why I chose this position here, because I felt that I was most suited for it and I could do the most good in that position. Great question, Kyle.
Thanks. I mean, that's a huge commitment, not taking money from lobbyists or special interest groups. Are you worried about that at all, being outspent? Because that is sometimes a contributing factor in elections. Sometimes the more you spend, the better you do. Or do you think kind of your actions and words are going to speak for themselves?
Well, I'll tell you right now, when it comes to money, we're not going to outspend them. They are backed by some big corporations, big companies, and people who really want their agenda pushed through. When you have an opponent who's getting $2.5 million given to him to go on a district our size, it's pretty substantial. So the way we're going to win is we're going to push our message the right way. We're going to talk about truth, and we're going to talk about what we're going to actually do, and we're going to relate on a human level. We're going to relate. These people, they know their struggles, and I know their struggles. He doesn't. And I think that when they see, if I can just show them, if I get an opportunity to show them, hey, I'm here for you. I'm your champion. I'm going to fight for you to have a better opportunity. I think people will come with us.
Well, I agree, because I couldn't tell you what percentage of the vote George Jorgensen got, but I know in 2016, Gary Johnson took, I think it was like 3% of the presidential vote, if I remember correctly. And I know that a lot of people have become very disillusioned with both Democrats and Republicans. And last time I checked, I think Libertarian registration was around 600,000. And I'm going to assume that's only going to keep going up.
Yeah, here's the thing: the two-party system is broken. It's broken. It's an old relic. It's a dinosaur. It's outdated. It's done. It really is. It's just on its last legs. Whether people want to stand back and actually look at what's going on, or if they're so committed to their tribalism and their team and they don't want to let it go, it's limping along. It's limping along, and that's why it's fighting so hard. That's why the corruption, they're trying to grab onto everything they can, because they realize that their days are numbered. The American people are going to see this. They're going to start to say, you know what, we deserve something better. They're going to be tired of taking the abuse and not being listened to, not being represented properly. And eventually, the American people are strong people. They're not going to take it forever. They'll wake up. They'll see.
One thing I wanted to ask is, as far as the election of 2020 goes, what is one thing that you thought the Libertarian Party did well on, and what's one thing you thought they could have improved on?
Okay, well, I'll start with the negative and then the positive. I feel like that's always the best way, just because they're not very strong on immigration. A lot of libertarians believe that it's cruel, that it's a cruel act. The things that occur Whereas I see it differently. I feel strong borders not only protects our country, but it also protects people from themselves. Every day, kids are being drugged across this desert. They're being sexually abused out in this desert. These are things that are documented. This is well known. Strangers taking kids that aren't theirs across the desert because they feel like it gives them a better chance of getting in our borders to come in. And the Libertarian Party, they're very soft when it comes to immigration. It's because they care about people in general. The Libertarians are naturally, they're loving people who care, and they want to be able to pass on liberty and freedom to anybody who they can. So a lot of times I think they miss the aspect of the border that we're just trying to protect people from themselves, because sometimes you do have to do that. I would say immigration's the downfall on their weak point. Now, what did the Libertarian Party do good or do great? Jo Jorgensen was phenomenal. Her message getting out, she was not given the opportunity to debate on stage with Joe Biden and Trump, and there was a reason for that. If Jo Jorgensen would have been up there and she would have been in between those two, while they were up there acting like clowns and arguing with each other and just being irate, because that's what they were doing. They're just putting on, a big show. If she would have been out there, she'd have been the voice of reason, and the people would have seen that. And there's a reason they stifled her. There's a reason they kept her down. It's because our message was so clear. I say this all the time. Democrats and Republicans have the same issue, and it's that they want to force their way of living on the other half of the nation. They want to say, you'll live by my rule. You'll live by the way I believe that you should live. So I'll gain this power, I'll gain this authority, and I'll force it on you. They're very authoritarian in nature. If you step back and you look at how they want to impose their views on others. Libertarians aren't about that. We know that there's different people from different cultures, religions, different ideas. What works for one will not always work for the other. The goal is to give you the ability to have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness without us infringing on that. Allow you to go out and live your life, claim your destiny, go out there and work hard and gain what is yours, and for the government to safeguard that versus be a roadblock to that. And that's what the Libertarian Party's for.
Okay. Yeah, no, good answers. And I did get a question on Instagram from Michael Lopez. He says, and I think we can get a good sense of what your answer is just based on the fact that you're a libertarian, but what is your stance on Second Amendment issues, particularly on gun bans?
Okay, so what do I believe about gun bans? Sorry, yeah. The internet kind of.
Oh, okay.
For a second.
Sorry about that.
I believe that all gun laws or placed, I believe they're all infringements. They're unconstitutional. We shouldn't have to pay a tax to own a suppressor, to own a short barrel rifle. These are nonsense. That it doesn't make citizens safer. It's proven more people are killed with knives than they are with AR-15s, and it's just a giant act that is put on by one side of the nation to try to impose and control and force their way of being on people. So I don't stand by any gun laws. I don't feel that you should own nukes. I don't feel like you should own bombs. And I always say, that's where we draw the line. I don't feel like you should have weapons of mass destruction or bioweapons or anything like that. But we're talking about rifles and handguns here. It's nonsense. It's nonsense that okay, so if I pay $200 and I wait a year, I'm more safe with this weapon. Is that what we're saying here? Because that's what it says to me. I bought a suppressor, I bought a short barrel rifle, I waited my year, I paid my $200 for each. So now I guess I'm more safe. I'm less of a danger to society because I went through those steps. They're nonsense. They're about this. They're about money and they're about control.
What about background checks?
Background checks. There are certain situations. You mean the background checks that we currently have, right? Not registering or.
Yeah. Just like when I go to the store in Wisconsin, like I went to Fleet Farm in Wisconsin, you go to the little computer, put your information in. wait like 20 minutes, like stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, I believe that there are certain situations in which someone shouldn't own a gun. If you beat your wife half to death, you've proven you're kind of a dangerous. You've proven you're a dangerous person. Maybe you don't deserve to have a gun. Maybe you forfeited that right. But as far as so how do we weed them out? How do we find out that who we're selling the gun to is an actual citizen of the United States? How do we know that they're not a violent? Because it doesn't make us gun owners look good when we give a gun to someone who is a violent felon. They take that gun, they go commit an act because they're just inherently evil, right? They've been bad their whole lives and they ain't changing now. They never had that come to Jesus meeting. They've decided that, hey, I'm going to go get a gun and I'm going to go make some things happen. So it safeguards our rights too. It allows us good law-abiding citizens who own guns and for recreational purposes and for not The Second Amendment is about many other things other than hunting and we know that. And I know sometimes that when you say things like tyrannical government, people will say, oh, that's a quack. Well, history says that I'm not a quack. History says that there are times, and there have been many times in this world throughout history where when people get disarmed, whether it be China or whether it be in Germany, bad things occur. And right now we're the lighthouse of the world. We're the last beacon of true freedom. You start stripping that away, the world's going to get a lot darker.
Well, I'll one up you, Jacob. I worked a lot of these riots and protests, and there were times where people were caught in the actual riot. And I don't want to come off as this beacon of progressivism, but there is a difference between the protests I went to and the riots I were at. And you would have these people call the police or the EMS and they're just like, yeah, we're not coming. And that's really like your safety when the chips are on the table is your own priority. And I don't think and I think it's a very privileged thing for a lot of people who sat at home during those things or didn't have the property or didn't live there in the actual like areas where this was happening, where they have their kids on the ground and they're on their stoops like that's what it even comes down to. It could even be less. It could be government abandonment to an extent.
Well, it's funny because the people who rail on against, for gun control, we want more gun control. We need to make this place safer. They're also the same people who are constantly going on about how bad police departments are and how they abuse people. And it's so funny. And they want to take money away from police departments. Well, who's going to come? Who's going to come if we have no weapons to protect ourselves? Who's coming? The organization that you defunded? The people that you're going after, you're constantly attacking. And now we can get into that about cops and all that. There are bad apples. There are people who've done things wrong. There are people who need to pay for those things. But as far as when it comes to the safety of my family, I have 2 daughters. And 5 years ago, if someone would have walked in and not been armed, I would have done fairly well with my hands. I've gotten older. And every year I'm just getting older. I'm getting a little bit slower. Maybe getting a little fat, gaining a little fat, slowing down a little bit. Before too long, I'm going to be an old man. And now what am I going to do? A young guy come through here and now I don't have a firearm to protect my family. It doesn't make sense. You have a right to protect your family, your kids, your wife. And that anybody who says differently, they're just ignorant to the situation. They weren't raised around guns most of the time. They don't understand. You'll listen to these people who go on against guns and they'll talk about them and they'll say the AR, 11s and they're 60 round, clips that go in the barrels and they say weird things and we make jokes about it in the Second Amendment community and us military guys, we think it's funny how they sound and we crack on about it, but it's dangerous. it's dangerous when these uneducated people, these ignorant people get into positions of power and they start making choices for us. You want to make decisions about something that's life or death, you need to educate yourself. You need to start to take the time. Don't be nonchalant about it. If it's life or death, you need to dig in and find out what's really going on.
Well, I'll even one up you, man. It's like, people know the line of work I've been in, whether they're politicians or not. Like, I've worked for people who are anti-gun. I am not a police officer. I am not in the National Guard. I am not in the service. And they have asked me to have a certain platform with me while I've worked for them, like kept them safe, and I'm being a little vague about that, but half brain, you kind of put the dots together. And it's like, hey man, do you realize who I am? Like, I'm just a dude, like I'm a dude. I took a course, I have a license, but I am a private citizen working under a private company that you went out of your way to hire. And because of this, the skill set. And it's like, hey, like, if all these fancy rules come through, I'm out several $1,000s that, make my life very nice, So it's kind of weird to me when we start playing these games as I'm sitting in a suburban with someone who doesn't think what I do for a living it matters, because they're just uneducated and they don't realize it. And
right. You see the same disconnect, Pat. That's a great example. You see the same disconnect when you see these politicians start talking about things like mileage tax. That came out a few weeks ago, and they say, well, we're going to start doing a mileage tax and we're going to up the gas tax. Well, yeah, it's fine for them because they have drivers who have to pay that fee. They ride in the back of a car. Most of them don't even need a driver's license. If it wasn't for, turn it in for running for office to get reelected, they wouldn't even need one. They have private drivers. They've taken that bribe money and they're doing well. This is something I'll say about a politician. You go in, you work in Congress, you can make a good living, but you'll never be rich being an honest congressman. You'll never be rich. It's a fair wage. It's a good wage. And honestly, if you ask me, it should probably be cut a little bit. You should be a little bit closer to the people you're serving. They should probably go off of districts. So that way it's fair. But it's an honest politician is not going to be one of these wealthy. If you go to Washington and become rich, it's because you're doing something wrong.
I always, when they brought up the Trump tax returns, and like, what are we really trying to see? Like the billionaire playboy, they're as close as it can get to the fat version of Bruce Wayne kind of thing, like that we knew probably did some shady stuff, like anywhere between the 70s and 2000s. Like, is that what we're really going to die on this hill? Or are we going to be like the person making $140,000 a year in Congress who should be paying, I believe, a DC tax and their home state tax, if I understand the way taxes are, because they're working out of state, and technically on campaign, depending on how it works, I'm not 100% sure, they're getting taxed in these other states, and their net worth is $2.3 million after being in Congress for 10 years. I'm like, hey man, if you want to go after the president's tax returns, be ready for this slippery slope we're about to go on, because that's, to me, not even a partisan issue. That is, all right, my man, let's do it. Like, I want to know how Mitch McConnell got rich. I want to know how Nancy Pelosi got rich. I want to know how Bernie Sanders, who's never had a real job before, got rich.
Yeah, he's got several houses, or you got politicians who they'll buy stock for a certain business and then they'll pass a bill that benefits that stock. It's like, whoa. Like, this isn't. So what happened to ethics and crossing the boundaries? Does that not exist on the Hill? Is this something that you're above? And that's another thing that's got to change, is the fact that they're above the law. These people are treated differently. There's a ruling elite class, and then there's the rest of us, and that has to change. Everybody should have to abide by the law. Everybody should have to follow the same rules. They shouldn't get any special privileges when it comes to that. And it's those special privileges that'll give them and that embolden them to be able to take these risks and do these dirty deeds. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's definitely extremely frustrating. Like I trade like everyone else probably does, and I I guess my biggest thing is like when COVID first started, you had all these people shorting stocks in Congress. And it's like Nancy Pelosi's husband buys a couple $1 million in Tesla. And it's like, you know, how much influence is she throwing in that way? And I'm like, I'd like to believe Elon Musk is doing whatever he wants to do because he's Elon Musk. But regardless, take out Tesla. I'm sure there's been those type of deals like government contracts, like Raytheon stock has went up a lot. Like, General Dynamics, all that hot jazz, and the warrior monk himself is leaves, a sec def and then goes straight into being the president of General Dynamics or vice president, I think Mattis is. It's like, hey man, what's going on here, And I get you can't weed out all the boogeymen, but you do one or two and it sends a message. It's like if they're going to be shady, at least not so much in front of our face type stuff.
Well, I'm the cause. I'm what happens. Men like me, men like you. I always say this all. I say this all the time. We're men of action. We're people who are. We're not going to sit back and watch. We're doers. We're going to go off and try to fix an issue, regardless of what it is, regardless of how big the task is. We're going to do everything we can to make the situation better. It's just being a man of action, and I think that when you have politicians failing to do what they're supposed to do, it breeds people like us to come along and fix this, because I'm not the only one out here. There's more people in this nation who are ready to stand up and fight for the American people and do the right thing. We just have to have the American people give them that opportunity so we can make things happen. Because the more people that the nation sends up there with me, it's just going to happen that much faster. It's going to be quicker. So, sending me, yeah, I can go do some work, but it'd be nice if the nation would send me some people to work with up there.
So does the Libertarian Party kind of have like a national strategy to, for lack of a better words, like burn out of the big scene? Because Justin Amash was the only Libertarian, and he switched over from being a Republican. So right. Is there any sort of that kind of central theme for the Libertarian Party to make it into the big time, for lack of a better word?
Well, we're already starting to see it at a grassroots level. We're starting to see over the last 4 years, 240 public office seats on the lower level get picked up by Libertarians, and that's massive. 240 is a lot. That just starts, and also if you look at our numbers on our party, our numbers are climbing, and they're climbing every year at a pretty rapid pace. We are outgrowing the other two. However, they're dinosaurs. They've been around for a long time, so they got numbers on their side, but we're growing rapidly. And I think that they're kind of doing themselves in, right? It's their behavior that's fueling us. If they would just do what they are promising to do for these people, well, then there wouldn't be so much of an issue. But there's people on the left and the right who they truly buy in to these politicians. They truly believe, this time, he was held back. He comes back to the district and he says, those Democrats held me back last time, but this time it'd be different. I'm going to need your money so I can take on Nancy Pelosi. And they give this big spiel, and you always see it. They make a boogeyman out of the opposite team. Yeah. So you see it. You always see the ads that, Mitch McConnell showing Nancy Pelosi showing Mitch McConnell, and they're both benefiting. They're both reaping in tons of campaign funds, and they're going back up. And guess what? They do the same song and dance that they did the last 4 years. They're doing it all over again. And that's all going to come to an end because people are starting to see it. Even myself, I followed the Republican Party for so long. And I just started to see that just empty promises. And around here, the Republicans, that was supposed to mean something. When you told somebody, I'm a Republican, that meant something. But now Republican politicians and Republican voters are two different animals. They really are. Republican politicians have left their party. They still reap the benefits, but they aren't the same. Republican voters, they mean well. Democrat voters, a lot of them mean well, but their politicians use them. They fuel them up. They get fights going. The media chips in. You know, the media is making money from being biased themselves. They just fuel each other, man. It's a crooked system.
One thing that I wanted to ask, because I think it's important, at least for me. I don't think it's discussed enough, but we have a lot of debt in this country, right? If you use the U.S. debt clock, which that's what I use, but I'm sure there's other resources out there, we're over 28 trillion right now. That's well over the GDP of our nation, right? And we're the richest nation on the face of the earth. I'm sure as a libertarian, you have opinions on the national debt, right? What is one step, in your opinion, that we could take to either decrease the debt or stop it from accumulating, or both?
Hey, it's a great question. First of all, you take the credit card away from the politicians. And don't spend money you don't have. You know, it's a rule number one. If you don't have the income coming in, you can't spend that amount. You're gonna have to chop it off and be reasonable with your money, first of all. So the way they do it now is if they need more money outside of what's being taxed, they print it. You guys have seen this. They print the money and it's just running the dollar. So the first thing we have to do is take no extra spending. We got to cut that. Then we got to start to look at each individual ways we spend money. I'm huge on transparency. So once funds go to let's say we'll use the military as a prime example. So what unit were you from, sir?
I was 2
Okay. So say you guys have a budget of $1 million. We'll just say 1 million. If your CO did not spend up to that $1 million, if they didn't utilize that money, the next year that unit would be punished and they would be given the funds in which they spent. So say you spent $500,000 and you had a CO who was trying to be wise with money. They'd punish him and next year he would do it less. So that's the way that all government programs work. So you either spend up to the max that they give you or they punish you and they cut it. So that inherently drives us towards wasteful spending. So one of the things we're going to have to do is we're going to have to make it to where people aren't punished for being wise with tax dollars. We're going to have to start showing reports to the American people on what the taxes is actually being spent on. I think it's only fair that you gentlemen work hard every day, that you kind of get to see where your money's going. Because right now, a lot of times, especially in military defense, they can't even give us an answer when we go to ask, hey, where are these funds going? Trillions of dollars, they have no idea. This isn't a joke. This isn't me trying to make an outrageous claim. This is legitimate. Around the time that 9/11 happened, there was major funds and investigations going on about how much money was missing, and they couldn't in the Department of Defense, they couldn't find out where it went. They had no idea. And this is a serious issue, and this goes all the way across the government. So if we cut that, we make it to where they're not punished for being wise with their money. We take their ability to spend extra away, do away with that, and we implement a flat tax. Okay, so I've had a lot of people go back and forth on how much is a reasonable amount, how much is too little. I've always said 10%. I'm from a Baptist background, so if 10% is good enough for God, then it should be good enough for the government. It's the way I feel. But let's say it's 18%. Right now, tax is at 18%, flat tax. That means no loopholes from the bottom to the top. Regardless, the biggest corporations, they pay their 18% fair share. Problem right now is over half the country doesn't pay taxes. They find loopholes, they find ways out of taxes, and big corporations pay way less. And even people at my wage, businesses find ways to avoid because we're overtaxed. And it's not avoiding in the fact of doing anything illegal. It's following the rules that you're given. And this goes across the nation. These are guidelines and laws that are set into place, and you can utilize these utilizing an accountant, and you can get out of paying a certain amount of taxes. So we have to do away with that, and we have to lower it down to where the people are actually getting to breathe. Business tax can get you up into 30%. I don't know, Pat, is that around what you're seeing for business? Around 30 something? Oh, I'm sorry, Pat, your microphone ain't on, bro.
Sorry about that. Yeah, anytime I'm 1099, I'm 1099, I do the 30%, and been doing that for a year and change, and
You're paying Social Security twice.
yeah. So, and I'm fine. I don't want to say I'm fine with it, but I get how the game works. I do keep my receipts, but if you just told me 18%, no, I think we've talked about this, no write-offs and whatnot, like I'd probably agree with that, but it'd be 18% from the person making $12,000 a year to $12 million a year.
It's your fair share. And what you do is you increase the revenue for the government, which will give us a fighting chance to get out of this hole we're in, because it's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to take us being tight with our money. It's just like when you have a budget at home, it's the same. It's the same concept. They have all these fancy economists come in and they say, we have, this way of fixing it and this, and it's going to be a 20-year. Stop the spending, the excess spending. Don't spend more than's coming in. Cut the waste. And guess what? That's it. You're gonna eventually chip away at that debt. It's a very simple concept, but it's very hard for people who don't want to stop spending to understand, or at least they act like they don't understand.
I wouldn't even mind paying the 50. I would, but if we comraded it up, right, and we all came together and we're like, hey, as a nation, I guess it's the millennial time to lead and whatnot. Not even for healthcare, not for military. If we were all like, hey, man, let's all put in 50% of our income and we will be done with the debt in 5 years, I would do that, because it would give my kids a chance to probably rack up the credit card again. But regardless, that's a solid 30 years of their problem. Not the best mentality, but realistic. But the thing is I don't see anyone taking my 50% of my money and putting it towards, it's like helping out a crackhead. We need, and there's a lot of things that just irk me when
you got to pull the credit card.
Yeah, and that's the first thing. Once again, I don't mind paying taxes in the all for one. Let's get rid of this debt. Like I'd support it, but like you need men and women like you, man, that are going to go in there and just be like, hey, are we going to be adults about this, or are we going to buy the Chad military a new weapon system because Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell's cousin-in-laws just opened up a rifle, a military company or something. I don't, something ridiculous like that, but that's not far off.
It's fairly accurate though. That's the thing. I don't understand how it's even gotten this far, because we're in dire need of action. But when you have people who have never had real lives, they go straight from school to college to politics. They've never known what it's like to be in a position where they're being taxed to death. You see what I'm saying? He goes to college. He has a cushy life living off mom and dad, and then he goes into the government. He's living off us taxpayers, and then they give him this credit card and they say, "Hey, spend it. Do what you got to do. Make things happen." And then so when they go to put these bills together, this is an issue too. This is a major issue. So I'm glad I remembered to say something about this. When you have something you want to vote on, you should vote on that issue. This stacking a 6-foot tall bill that nobody can read and then dropping it on the floor a day later and saying, yep, it's either you vote on it or you don't, and we'll go tell everybody you voted against, they'll put something in there that will be damning to the person who votes against it. It's $1 trillion, but we don't. It's like the infrastructure bill. 6% actually went to roads and bridges. Out of all that money, 6%. It's an infrastructure bill. It's for infrastructure, but a majority of the bill doesn't even go to that. Both COVID bills, they Republican and Democrat made the same mistake. They both did it. So it's not the Democrats are bad or the Republicans are bad. They both pulled it off, and then they both blamed the other one when they were in charge. So money going to museums and Pakistani liberal arts and just this crazy stuff. And it's like, I think they did a study. It said $20,000 is the check that each person in the United States should have got for to bail the people out. $20,000, you got $1,400. Think about that. Where'd all that money go? They're lining people's pockets, it's being funneled back into theirs, and they're taking us for a ride. They're cashing in on us.
Well, even one up it, man. It's like I did pretty well in 2019, so my stimulus situation is a little bit different. But there are people in healthcare. You think should have, like, the healthcare workers, the nurses? Do you think they should have got stimulus checks? They should have got some sort of financial comp. But they're a little bit different than working in an ICU in New York City during the March, April, May compared to the ICU nurses in a certain place in Kansas. You think those people whose hours, if not increased, should have got stimulus checks, who didn't get furloughed? There's a lot of people out there who didn't stop working. Like I did pretty well last year, because of the contracts that I was afforded due to COVID, and unfortunately the civil unrest financially benefited me. Like, do you think I deserve a stimulus check?
Well, you have integrity. So you're saying, well, I did well, so I don't really need it. I shouldn't have got it. But not everybody has that integrity. Some people say, well, they got it. I did well, but hey, if you're passing out checks, it's only fair. I pay taxes. Why am I not getting something? Honestly, I think there were bad ideas all the way around. I mean, we're in a bad spot when it comes to national debt. This is serious. He talked about the debt calculator, and you watch it and the thing will give you anxiety watching it flick. It never stops. It goes, and it's, and you're watching, you're like, man, is this ever going to slow? Is there a certain time of day that this number stops moving? No, that's the answer. If anybody's watching it and hasn't seen this thing, this number is constantly flicking up. We're constantly going further in debt, and it's a crisis is what it is. And our leaders have used poor judgment, and they've landed us in this position to where we are going to enslave our grandkids to debt. They're probably their children by the time we're done. We're not, we're just getting started with these guys. So, it's like, well, what did you do with your stimulus check? And I said, well, I went and bought an AK, so I guess I'm going to have to write my grandkid a thank you card because he bought me an AK-47. So, it's like that's really what it comes down to. They took money out of my grandkids' fund. I'll pass them a weapon. I'll pass them a family heirloom of an AK. They last forever. That way they get their money's worth.
Yes, moving on to a different topic. I think everyone agrees that healthcare in this country is awful. One thing we disagree on with, most things is what should we do to fix it? So what is one step you think that we could take to move towards fixing our healthcare system?
The number one thing I think in benefiting most things is pulling the government out of it, and also showing your prices. A guy that I spoke to on the interview prior, he made this. He said it like this. He said, if I go to the donut shop, they don't say, all right, here's your donut, I'll bill you later. You say, how much is that donut? And I'll give you, your 79 cents. He made such a valid point. It's, when he said it, it struck me. And it's amazing that it was, when you go out and you talk to people like we're doing now, how somebody can say something and it's like it flicks a light switch, right? It opens your mind and you're like, I don't know why I never looked at it that way. And it's because we're so conditioned to the way that hospitals work. We go in, we get our care, and they send us a bill. And that's just been our normal since day one. But he's exactly right. It shouldn't be that way. We should know, we should be able to go on the website, and hospitals should have to compete for our care. So competition drives down prices. It just does. That's how business works. So if you have 4 hospitals in your town or your city, 4 major hospitals, you go on their website, you start dropping down the tabs, and you say, okay, well, this is how much it will cost. If I go in and get a scan, or if I receive this care, even this is how much an IV is going to cost me. When they do my blood draw, this is how much it's going to cost. Well, you compare, and then now you know what fits your budget. And I think that's a good move too. I think he was spot on with that. And just transparency in general, whether it's with healthcare or taxes, is always a good thing. The people need to know what they're giving their money for in all cases. Like I said, we work hard for this money. We need to know where it's going and what it's for, and we should never have be in a position to where we take something without knowing what we're going to have to give for it.
Do you think there's any validity in having like government-run healthcare programs or like social safety nets? Do you think it should all be privatized?
I think there are some social safety nets that are good. I think that they work well. I think that we have to monitor and watch for abuse. Obviously, the elderly. I mean, we've seen it in EMS. There are some people that just can't take care of themselves. They get to a point they don't have family to take care of them, and it's for the greater good for us to do that. And if we're spending our money wisely on the Hill, well, then that's not that big of an inconvenience, is it? We're all chipping in for the greater good. It's when that becomes an inconvenience on spending money on a safety net, is when they're wasting money on everything else but what they're supposed to. Safety net's a good thing, especially for when you have someone who's disabled, the elderly. We should not, I say this all the time, we should not have homelessness in America. Like, this is insane to me. We have people, it's a mental health crisis, there's mental health issues. We need to be able to get these people help, find out what's going on and get them back on their feet. And if we can't, we need to figure out a way to take care of them. But homelessness is a serious issue, and we live in the greatest country in the world. And sometimes you can drive down the road and someone be, sleeping. It'd be snowing. It'd be snowing. You stop, and because I had this happen one time. I was driving down to Sykeston, and I looked off in the distance as I was driving up on down the highway heading south, and I seen this guy hunkered over in the snow. And I pulled over, and I ran up there to talk to him. And I thought, man, what am I going to do? Where do I take him? If I do convince him to get in the car, no one knows what to do with them, and that's something we have to solve. That's something we need to really put our focus and attention into, because he didn't want to ride with me. He didn't want to get in the car and warm up. And he was just content with sitting there being in the cold. I just slipped money under his jacket and tried to give him something. And that's like, in that situation, it's like you're trying to do your best to help, but we have to come up with a better solution for that. In 8th district, even in our country, family-oriented district, we're starting to see homelessness become an issue that we don't know how to solve that. And that's a national issue. And I think that's something that I would like to try to take on if I get elected into Congress.
Oh, I wanted to talk about foreign policy a little bit. I guess we could start off with Afghanistan. What is your opinion on either continuing or ending the war? And if it's ending the war, well, I guess for either, how do you suppose we go about doing that?
This is a very challenging situation, and the problem is no one has ever went to Afghanistan and came out the victors. These people have been fighting forever. Many countries have tried to go in there and have the success of making their agenda work there, and it's just, I don't know what it is that causes that. These people, it may be their culture, the way they run. They don't want people over there helping. There might be a very small portion, but there ain't many. And I think that's the drawback. I think that you have to have a majority of the people on board with getting rid of the problem, right? The terrorists. You have to have, and if the majority isn't there to help you out, Well, then it's hard for us to go change a country, and especially nation building. I say that we've rarely accomplished becoming the nation builders. The only nation that we've truly built is our own. We've had instances that we've helped with Germany, and that's something that's been brought up with the drop in the wall. However, that's more sanctions and economics. So as far as going in and occupying and building a nation, we haven't had too much success with this. So I think we need to pull back and let them handle their own business. We need to be more secure on our borders to make sure that we're protecting our people. We need to monitor who we let into this country, who are outsiders. We need to know who we're getting. But I don't think that when I look at you guys are so willing, you guys are so willing to serve your country, and you're patriots, you're warriors. You guys all, went off and fought and you served your country. It's such a respectful thing. It's an honorable thing. You did great. You did what you were supposed to do. And that's the thing is you served your country. It's a beautiful thing. But why should people, our brothers, go over to an endless war situation, lose their life, lose their limbs for what? What's the end game here? I mean, I don't see it. I don't see an end game in Afghanistan. What are we going to turn Afghanistan into Germany? Are we going to turn Afghanistan into Japan, and we're going to turn it around? I don't see it. We could spend trillions of dollars over there. It's never going to be a Germany. Not in my lifetime. But I think pulling out is the best option. I think bringing our troops back home and letting them handle their own affairs.
I'm pretty invested in Afghanistan. I spent, I think, almost 3 years of my life there. And once again, I'm going to talk out both sides of my mouth. I've seen the bad, not the bad actions, but as far as our service members dying, like friends I have, guys coming back and still mentally not being there or being over there. But I've also worked with these locals for so long and that was my big thing is I want to say embedded is an overused term, but I was, working with them, working with their families, providing medical aid with them, and like, I just know the second we leave, there's 400 plus guys, plus families and children that are just, on a chopping block. And once again, man, I don't want to come off as a humanitarian or anything like that, but it's weird.
There's nothing wrong with being a humanitarian and coming off that way. You have every right to feel an emotional connection to these people that you've lived with, you broke bread with.
I'd like to see, and I think I'd like to see rich Afghans. I'd like to see the world come together to help these places, kind of like how, who was it? Was it Barry Goldwater or Ross Perot just got a team and just A-teamed? Have you ever heard that story?
I haven't.
Yeah, it was either Barry Goldwater or Ross Perot. He hired a bunch of people to go down and like get several of his employees. It was some A-team stuff. But once again, you're putting people who want to be there, who want to help these people, and putting their own lives, and obviously they're going to be financially compensated, but is that even an option at this point? Like outside of the US intervention, because like a lot of my guys got murdered for being associated with us, and that's with my big American friends, right? And they get threatened all the time and whatnot. So it's just, I like, to me, but I know the right move is to pull the troops out, but there's also 400 plus people that I've been directly involved with that are probably gonna get murdered. And it's not even by the Taliban, it's probably by just their neighbors, because they had a job and their neighbor didn't. So I do want to, not to dampen the mood, I do like to throw that out there, as we have had so many assets. And some of them don't want to come to America, not because they hate us, but because Charkar is their home, it's where they grew up and everything like that. It's where it's where they want to have their kids stay. So, you know, the knee jerk is okay, bring them all over. It's like, well, some of them don't want to come over, you know, they want to stay where they are from. So I throw that out when we talk about the troop withdrawals. I'm like, you know, once again, talking both sides out my mouth, but you know, I don't know. It's a hard decision. It's a hard question. So
Maybe
Something that needs to be. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No. Well, the thing is maybe if we get the spending under control, where it's not sinking our boat, you know, we can operate in a more humanitarian fashion instead of going over there to occupy or do the things that we're doing. It's just the cost. It's the cost of the lives. It's the cost of we're not even just financially. I mean, the good we're doing good. And I'm very proud of the troops over there doing what they're doing. And I don't ever want my thoughts on pulling us back and bringing everybody home. It isn't for a lack of sympathy for these people in their positions, because I can't imagine being in a country where I'm surrounded by all this evil, and all I want is to be able to change that so that my kids can grow up and live in a safe environment where they don't have to worry about being killed because they act a certain way or they care for, it's powerful. It's hard. It's for sure. It's definitely not easy when these people, you got to truly take into all this into consideration. But as a U.S. congressman, I need to look out for American troops first. And I need to make sure that I do everything I can to keep them safe by letting helping the politicians make better decisions on how to utilize them.
no, and I appreciate that, man. Like I don't think it's at this point in the game. I don't think it's the U.S. government's problem. You know, I'd like to see, once again, more Afghan citizens and people of Afghan descent come in, throw money into this, and say, "Hey, man, like I have these Americans who are willing to stay here, and they're going to help you, and they're going to build, they're going to do stuff, and we're going to, I'd like to see that happen because." We've thrown a lot of money at this problem, and there have been a lot of Afghans and Afghans who have financially done very well. And there's also been 20 plus years of Americans going to war, and who like being over there. So, I feel like the two things could stray away from the American taxpayer and be like, all right, man, we've given you a lot. We've given you your allowance for years. It's time to figure this out. Figure this out. So, but obviously it's way more complicated than that. So,
yeah. And I think that's the issue with a lot of things. It's so complicated, but when you have people that they just they'll just throw out an idea, and it's just you have to really understand. It's like when we're talking about the guns. You have to really understand what costs are to your actions. You have to actually dig in and find out. So that way, when you make your decisions, you make it with knowing what comes at a cost for the decision that you're choosing to make. You need to know those things as a leader, and not every decision is going to be an easy one, and it's never not all of them are going to feel good. Sometimes the right decision, it hurts to make it, right? We've all been in those positions where you have to make a hard call, and you don't want to, and it don't feel good, but it's the right thing for the greater good. And I think we just need to stop and really evaluate the decisions that we're making and be cautious about our movements, but do it for the greater good and not to line pockets.
I think that's the last question for you that I got. I don't know about either of you guys.
I'm very grateful for you guys having me tonight. I really enjoyed this conversation. It was good getting to speak with some fellow veterans and getting to put my ideas out there. And you guys had great questions, by the way.
Yeah, no, I think we all really appreciate you coming on for sure.
Yeah, very much appreciate you being super accessible and answering everything. It was awesome. I never met anybody that wanted to answer questions like like you did. So it was
Oh,
really
well, thanks, Kyle. Yeah, the one thing that I don't want to do is, you see this all the time when a moderator asks a politician, they're up on the stage and they completely answer the question in a way that that wasn't the question. You just want to yell at your TV, like, what are you doing? Answer the question. Because if people would just answer the question, the voters can make an honest, educated, and informed decision on what they're choosing for. That's my goal, is to always be open, honest, and say it even if it's hard to say. And I'll do my best to constantly stay accessible so people can, I want people to know what's going on. They have every right. It's their country too. And we are a government supposed to be made up by the people, for the people. It's not the elites and then us. It's not it.
Hashtag term limits.
Term limits, cut their pay. Should go off of their districts. If you're from a district that doesn't have that big of an income, well, then you shouldn't be you should make a fair wage compared to that will drive people to bring business and success to their districts. If their pay is affected a little bit, you quit selling the people out and letting their jobs leave off to Mexico or to other countries. I don't want to just dog on Mexico, but there's a lot of good manufacturing jobs. There's a lot of jobs that get ran out of our country because of high taxes. And these businessmen are smart. They look around, they see that the government's wasting their money and wasting their time, and they'll go to where they can make the best living for them and their family. And I think that if a congressman off each district only made what his district was around what his district was the average, I think that would be awful fair.
Yes.
Definitely a good start, regardless. I'm not opposed to there's 200, 300 of these people, probably more, 500, I think. These people, average it out, they're all making 140, 170. That's several $1 million that we could save, and that's just rough math. That's
Right. Right.
I'm not opposed. Challenge to see someone who is.
Well, they'll all a lot of them will fight to keep on, to hold on to whatever they can, whether it's power or finances. And I think that just exposes them. We make the hard decision about term limits and watch who votes against it. And when they vote against it, take note. If you're a voter, take note of that. Take note when a bill gets introduced to cut the average pay of a congressman. Someone puts in to cut the pay and to impose term limits. Watch how they vote. Watch how they vote. That's it. It's easy to find. You can look it up online. You can see who's about it and who isn't. You can see who's legitimately here to serve, who's legitimately here to do the right thing. Google their net worth. See what they were. These people can't hide. The technology is too good these days. You vote no on something, the people know about it. You vote yes, they know. They see your record, your voting record. And that's something they should be held accountable for, their voting record.
Kyle, Pat, you guys have anything else for Jacob?
No, once again, grateful you came on. Grateful you spent your own time to talk with us. Shoot, back and forth ideas. Obviously you're taking time away from your family and your campaign, but I'm grateful, and I'm definitely blessed to have you, doing your best to represent us in the 8th district of the great state of Missouri.
Thank you.
Might keep me around here a couple more years, So.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've interrogated you enough. Once again, thank you. It was really awesome getting to talk to you.
Yeah, you too, Kyle.
I wish you good luck. We need more people, transparent people like you are willing to answer people's questions in government.
Thank you.
I'm rooting for you.
Thank you. It's very nice meeting you, getting to know you a little bit.
Last thing I have for you is you could go ahead and say any closing remarks that you got, and then if you want to shout out any social media pages, your campaign again, or any companies, anything like that.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'll start off with this. Every 2 years, 6 years, depending on the office, politicians come out and they give you a spiel as a voter, and they say that they're going to go off and they're going to achieve this for you. And then they get to the hill and they forget about the promises they made. It's time we hold them accountable. It's time that we make them live up to their actions. If a politician says they're going to do something and they don't do it, let's get them out of there. Let's not be afraid to take some risk on moving the pieces. We want real change. If we want people, and when I say change, I'm not meaning the country fundamentally. What I'm meaning by change is politicians who actually work for the people. They do what they're going to say and they look out for the best interests of this country. And that has been something that has been forgotten. And now it's time for not only for, I want other people to step up. If you're out in the state and you're seeing this and you thought, hey, you know what, maybe I can make a change. I know that I'm an honest person. I know that I could do the things that he's talking about. Look into running. Get out there and be that man or woman of action. Get out there and try to make a difference, because we live in the greatest nation in the world. We live in a place where a regular person can sign up and can actually run a campaign and can win a seat in Congress, a seat in the Senate. Big things can happen here. This is a great place. We can make change, but it's going to take people stepping up, and it's going to be, you got to put yourself out there, and it's not easy. It's not easy. There's a lot of things that you're going to have to get used to, especially being out in public. People questioning you, and constantly, you're going to have to get used to managing your time. There's a lot of things that come with the campaign, but please, if you're thinking about it, let's make some change out here. It would be nice to have some friends up in Congress who I know I can trust. When a bill comes down the line, I say, I look over at them and I know that person, they've got the Americans' backs. They got America's back. They got their state's back. They're going to take care of the people. If you're from 8th District, I would like you to understand that we have a great opportunity here. We have an opportunity to do something big and different. We have an opportunity to break the two-party system apart that has failed you for years and abused you, whether it's with high taxes or with pushing infringements on the Constitution. We have a chance here where you don't have to worry about splitting the vote. You can vote on the person who you believe in, not the lesser of two evils. You can vote on the person you actually believe in. Look into me. If there's something that you want to know, message me. Send me your phone number. I'll give you a shout. That's all I got for this evening. Thank you all so much for having me. It's been an amazing evening, and I've truly enjoyed this conversation. God bless.
Yeah. Thank you for coming. We really appreciate it. Wish you the best of luck for sure.
Thank you, sir.
All right, gents. Until next time.